Margaret Hendricks had lived in her quaint suburban home for over 40 years. The neighborhood, lined with maple trees and neatly trimmed hedges, had seen generations grow up and move away. She remembered the laughter of her children echoing through the halls, the smell of her late husband Charles's pipe in the evenings, the quiet hum of family life. But now, after Charles had passed 5 years ago, and her daughter had moved across the country for work, it was just Margaret and her son, Daniel. Daniel, she sighed softly, a man in his 40s who wore the careless confidence of youth as if he had never aged. Margaret had raised him with love and sacrifice, but over the years, she had seen cracks form in his character. He was charming, yes, but there was an undercurrent of entitlement that gnawed at her pride. And now, she had discovered a secret that made her blood boil. Daniel had been siphoning money from her monthly disability checks, claiming it was temporary but spending it on his gambling habits instead. She remembered the moment she realized it, the sinking feeling in her stomach, the betrayal so sharp it left her momentarily speechless. Yet she hadn't confronted him, at least, not directly. She had hoped he might change, but deep down, Margaret knew she had reached the point where patience alone would not save her finances, or her sanity. She remembered the moment she realized it, the sinking feeling in her stomach, the betrayal so sharp it left her momentarily speechless. Yet she hadn't confronted him, at least, not directly. She had hoped he might change, but deep down, Margaret knew she had reached the point where patience alone would not save her finances, or her sanity. A faint thrill ran through her. She didn't remember buying the ticket. It must have been months ago. Still, a hunch told her to check the state lottery results online. Her hands trembled slightly as she typed in the numbers. And then, there it was. Every number matched the winning jackpot from last week. Over $3.6 million. Margaret sat in stunned silence. Her first thought was of Daniel. He had spent months using her checks to gamble. What if she told him? Would he ask for more? Would he even appreciate it? Her next thought was far more exciting. She could finally live for herself, on her own terms. For the first time in decades, Margaret felt powerful. She spent the next few days quietly planning, taking stock of the house and her life. The small suburban home she had maintained so meticulously had become outdated, faded wallpaper, creaky floors, an aging kitchen. She made a list: new paint, modern furniture, hardwood floors, updated appliances. But she didn't want Daniel to know. She contacted contractors discreetly, scheduling renovations to be completed while she was out running errands. Every choice was hers: the shade of the living room walls, the gleam of marble countertops, the soft plush of new carpets. For the first time in her life, she didn't have to consider anyone else's opinions. And beyond renovations, Margaret allowed herself small indulgences. She bought herself cashmere sweaters, silk blouses, and leather boots, items she had denied herself over the years. She booked spa weekends, wine tastings, and even a trip to Napa Valley. Each experience was a step into the life she had always deserved but never allowed herself to have. Daniel continued his visits, unaware of the lottery windfall tucked safely in Margaret's drawer. He complained about work, asked for money, and occasionally lingered with his easy charm, hoping to extract sympathy or funds. Margaret played her part well, the doting mother, unaware of the forces quietly shifting beneath her roof. One afternoon, Daniel leaned against the counter, swirling a coffee cup with his fingers. "Mom, I've been thinking," he began casually, "maybe you could, I don't know, help me out a little more, until I get back on my feet?" Margaret smiled serenely, her eyes twinkling with a secret she had kept for herself. "Daniel, I think it's time we both learned a little independence," she said, her voice calm but firm. He frowned. Something in her tone had shifted, but he didn't know what. The renovations began in earnest. Margaret visited the contractors daily, overseeing every detail. The walls were painted a serene shade of blue, her late husband's favorite color. Hardwood floors gleamed underfoot, replacing the worn carpet that had absorbed decades of family life. The kitchen transformed into a modern culinary haven, complete with marble countertops, a double oven, and sleek appliances. The bathroom became a retreat, with a freestanding tub and elegant tilework. Even the garden received attention, with new plants, a small fountain, and a cozy patio area perfect for morning coffee. During this process, Margaret felt a resurgence of energy. She realized that the lottery ticket had given her more than money. It had given her the courage to claim her life back, to invest in herself, to redefine her days. With renovations underway, Margaret indulged in experiences she had always dreamed of. She booked a weekend at a luxury spa in Napa Valley, enjoying wine tastings, long walks through sun-drenched vineyards, and massages that melted away years of tension. She traveled to the coast, staying in a charming bed and breakfast overlooking the Pacific Ocean. She visited art galleries, attended theater performances, and dined at restaurants she had only ever read about. Each outing reminded her that life, even in her 70s, still held adventure and joy. Margaret documented her journeys in a journal, writing not only about the places she visited but also about the emotions she rediscovered: pride, independence, freedom, and delight in her own company. Margaret had always loved baking. Her chocolate chip cookies, pies, and artisanal breads were legendary in her neighborhood. One evening, as she kneaded dough in her newly renovated kitchen, an idea struck. She could turn her passion into a small business. She created a website, designed labels, and started taking orders from neighbors and local cafes. The business, modest at first, quickly gained traction. Margaret relished the independence it provided, the creative control, and the satisfaction of building something tangible from her own skill. Through this venture, she also made new friends, other small business owners, local chefs, and fellow bakers. For the first time in years, Margaret felt part of a community, connected not by family obligation but by shared interest and mutual respect. Inevitably, Daniel began to notice changes. The house smelled different, the furniture was new, the carpets gleamed. Most of all, his mother had changed. She carried herself with an air of confidence and serenity he hadn't seen in decades. One evening, he confronted her. "Mom, what's going on here? You've been spending money like crazy. Where's my cut? You know, for all the help I've given?" Margaret placed the yellowed lottery ticket on the counter and looked him straight in the eyes. "Daniel, this is mine. Every penny. I've been saving it for myself, and it's time I lived the life I've always wanted." Daniel's face went pale. You can't. That was supposed to be ours." Margaret shook her head. "It was never ours. It was mine. I just needed to find it." The words hit Daniel like a thunderclap. His entitlement, his charm, his schemes, all rendered powerless. For the first time, he realized he had underestimated his mother, and that his greed had blinded him to the strength she possessed. From that day on, Margaret's life blossomed. She traveled more, indulged responsibly, and expanded her small business. She invested wisely, ensuring a secure retirement, and shared her joy selectively, with friends, her daughter via video calls, and a few kind neighbors. Daniel, meanwhile, had no choice but to reckon with his actions. He sought therapy, learned financial discipline, and gradually tried to rebuild his relationship with his mother. But the dynamic had shifted. Margaret was no longer the woman to be manipulated or controlled. She was independent, empowered, and joyful. Margaret often sat on her patio in the mornings, tea in hand, watching the sun rise over her blooming garden. She reflected on the life she had built after the lottery windfall. A life filled with freedom, experiences, creativity, and respect. The lottery ticket had been more than money. It had been a key to independence, to self-respect, and to the realization that it was never too late to claim one's own life. Margaret Hendricks had discovered the hidden treasure she had long deserved, and in doing so, had left a legacy of empowerment for herself, a reminder that life's greatest rewards are not always given, but sometimes quietly found and courageously claimed.